Hi, everyone. This is Alex Jarett with Technology Executives Club. It's a real pleasure to be here today for you. And welcome to those participants on our webinar directly as well as LinkedIn Live. Today is, again, a highlights edition. And so what we're going to do, this is a video show and podcast. I'll show you where to watch all the videos I talk about today, as well as how to listen to the podcast. By the way, the podcast is under Technology Executives Review, if you just want to search it. And it's brought to you by Technology Executives Club. And our mission is to promote and empower technology executives, technology industry executives, and their companies. I want you to think of us now as HGTV for technology executives and technology industry executives. Now, whenever I tell someone that in person, I always say you're Chip or you're Joanna, depending on who I'm speaking to. And we'll help you and your company enhance your executive brand, expand your network, and grow your business. And along the way, if you just like to be a participant, you will see a lot of great information, coaching, wisdom from our board of advisor members. And you can see all the videos we talk about today at technologyexecutivesclub.com. And you can also listen to our podcast, which has the full video audio, as well as these highlights episodes at Technology Executives Review. You can just search for it in Apple Podcast or Spotify Podcast, as well as just go to our site, and there's links to the podcast from the site. Okay. While you're there, if you're new to us, join our complimentary Insiders Club. We'll give you all kinds of information for free and goodies. We've been recording conferences and events and webinars and workshops for years, and I'm giving a lot of it away now for those who decide to join our Insiders Club. And if you're a little more serious and want to get involved and be a regular on our media network, reach out to me or reach out to us and ask us about our Board of Advisors program. The Board of Advisors is not just the Board of Advisors to me, it's the Board of Advisors to you all, the community. And that's what we're about. So book a discovery call on our site. So let's get started. That's the end of the introductory commercial. And I appreciate you listening to that. And let's get started. So today we're going to talk, we're going to show highlights from the following people, interviews, and I'll show you where to watch the full ones or listen to them as I go through it. And if you're listening on the podcast, again, it's technologyexecutivesclub.com. First, we'll listen to Tom Drez, former CIO of Christian Brothers Services. Lessons learned from a career as CIO. I'll give you a few minutes of Tom's talk that I had with him recently. He was great. And then Anaf Durani, who's VP of Engineering at Grainger, a great company. He's a great guy. The keys to career growth in technology. That was just one segment of his interview as well. I'll show you where to watch the whole one. Tom Irvine, CIO of Monosol. He gave us a great talk recently on where the return in AI will be for the enterprise, according to Gartner. He went to the annual Gartner Symposium, shared with our community what he learned. It's a great presentation. I'll show you just part of it today. Excuse me. I'll show you part of it today. And then I'll show you where to see the whole thing. And then I'm going to do a bonus segment. We're going to do more of these. A lot of people are asking me about this. Technology executive branding tips. That's from me, and how to really expand your brand and grow your network. And everybody could use a little help with that. And these are some hard lessons I learned. These tips are going to be from some hard lessons that I learned along the way that are going to be helpful to you. So with that introduction, let's get started. First, we're going to listen to Tom Drez, former CIO of Christian Brothers Services. I call this segment Lessons Learned from a Career as CIO. And he's, by the way, he's done more than just CIO. He's done a lot of different roles at Christian Brothers. And so I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to our site. The site I'm looking at is technologyexecutivesclub.com. And this, for those of you watching, this is where you can see all these videos. You go into Board of Advisors. On this one, you'll go into the Board of Advisors area. And then you'll scroll down, looking for all the different Board of Advisors. And let's find Tom. Where'd he go? Where'd I put him? How funny is that? I can't find Tom. Oh, he's right in the top. I just skipped right over by mistake. Here's Tom Drez. You click on that.
Profit Center, right?
And let me go to the timestamp. You see, the whole interview is about 40 minutes. We're not going to go through all that today, but it's worth watching. I'm going to start at around 10:50. a second. That's a timestamp. There, no good.
No, especially in a management role, is know your resources. Don't try to do everything yourself. Rely on people.
Okay, that's the right soundbite. Sorry. All right, let's get started on that. I'm going to take my camera away and let you listen to that. I'll be back in about 10 minutes.
That connected them to the internet. Now security goes
That
beyond
was
your
it.
four
All right,
walls
let's get started on that.
to the internet, and that changed everything. But by then, really, when it comes right down to anything, Alex, all somebody has to know, especially in a management role, is know your resources. Don't try to do everything yourself. Rely on people. Pick good people and get out of their way. There's a quote, Teddy Roosevelt.
That's a great quote. Pick good people and get out of your way. It's interesting that you say that, because I'm sitting here. I've sort of thought of 2 or 3 notes as I've listened to you over the years and heard your wisdom. You've really stood out on 2 or 3 areas for me. One is you always do talk about people.
Right.
And
yeah.
I know you're a people person. I mean, for those of you who don't know, Tom, he's very involved. My goodness, congratulations. You're the governor of Illinois for the Lions Association, which if anybody doesn't know that organization, you should look it up. They do nothing but good for people. They're a fraternal, I think I'm saying it right, fraternal organization that does good for the community.
All volunteer organization worldwide, and they focus in on providing community and humanitarian services to those in need. That's it. 100% of the money raised from the public goes back.
Yeah,
right.
It's a wonderful service, wonderful
Absolutely.
program. But even internally,
Mhm.
I got to tell you, I can't tell you how many people over the years, vendors, employees have come up to me and just said, Tom's such a great guy. They always bring you up. So that speaks for something.
Yeah, that's very
in a
nice.
nice way,
I would,
by the way. Yeah, you're like, Alex,
Well,
they bring you up too. I got to talk to you offline.
well, I agree with that, Alex, right? I mean,
Yeah.
when you get right down to it, if you strip away all the business and all the technology or whatever anybody is doing and whatever their roles are now, life is relationships. I know with my own kids too.
Yeah.
I am sure my wife taught my kids 99.999% of what they know. I just tried to tell them life is relationships in person, not just texting and emailing and zooming around, but people, person to person, face to face. Life is relationships, and the more people you can meet, that's the more opportunities you have to learn and to grow and to build a network that you can rely on together. They can rely on you, and you can rely on them.
So you got someone watching this, and maybe they're starting, maybe they're in the middle, maybe they're towards the end of the career, and they're thinking, "Oh, what am I going to do next?" But what are some tips? And you say life is relationships, and I've seen you, do that in person. But how do you look at relationships, and and do you treat your employees differently, or because you've got that? Like, how do you? What are your thoughts on that?
First is, hey, I'm an IT guy, right? That's how I started. Yeah. I would, when people ask me, I actually say I am an introvert. People don't believe me when I say that.
I wouldn't believe that. I
am an introvert who has forced myself to become an extrovert to further myself and business, right? Because life is relationships. It is people talking to each other. I mean, it's not like I'm making deals out on a golf course or something like that, but that's a form of relationships as well.
Absolutely.
But I would say, so I look for all those opportunities to get out from behind this desk. I don't spend much time really in my office. Most providers that I work with, they've never even been in my office. I'm going to meet them out and about somewhere. But I look for those opportunities. Technology Executives Club, perfect example, right?
You were always there. Yeah.
Peer group. We're not competing with each other. Everybody shares the good, the bad, and the ugly. And if I were to boil down what tech is, it's 2 things: relationships and content. Period. That's it.
That's so right. Nice. I'll use that short. So that's but relationships, but the thing is about you, and I appreciate that you came to every event, almost every event that you could, either you or somebody else, when we were doing nothing but events, and it was awesome, and I'm grateful for that. And you shared and you spoke. But in terms of what is your sort of lesson learned in terms of dealing with people, that are internal, that work for you? How do you
when we were doing
How do you-
nothing but events.
what are your thoughts
and it was
on that?
awesome, and I'm great.
Yeah, well, so relationships, people follow on relationships.
Mm.
People are your most important asset. It's like that chicken and an egg question for any
Yeah.
company is
Yeah.
which comes first? You focus on the customer or the employee? I mean, you can make a case for both, but without customers, you're not going to have employees. So I'm a big proponent of coaching and mentoring and encouraging employees to get out and to learn and to provide for education. Of course, not all education can happen on company time. Everybody needs to have some personal responsibility and take it upon themselves to learn outside of the work environment as well. But as a chief, as a manager, those are chiefly responsibilities, is to take care of your team that takes care of the rest of the employees in the company, and those rest of the employees take care of the customer.
Yeah, that's great. Well, let's switch gears a little. The other thing that I've listened to you, for those of you who don't, I've had the pleasure of listening to Tom talk about his business over the years also. And, for somebody that started as the head of, what do you call it, data processing or
Computer
what was it?
services
Computer
manager.
services. Yeah, that was kind of
Right.
forward thinking back then. I've listened to your story, and you've done two major things that I've heard of. That we would do all these big conferences, and I would study Gartner and Avant and all these different companies like what HMG, like what they were talking about the conferences, and you were out there doing it. Like, number one, you did digital transformation. That's a never-ending thing.
Right.
But you did it, and you actually did the whole shift to the cloud early on.
Okay, I just wanted to give you a little preview of what was coming in the next part of the conversation, but that was a great conversation. Just to wrap up the segment, I wanted to show you was that Tom really spoke about his team first. And that is one thing that I see a lot in these interviews with really top shelf senior, mid-level or senior executives. They're really focused on their team members. And I think Tom said it real well, which is first the customer's team. I don't know that it matters. You got to focus on both, but you've got to be thinking about your team as part of the equation. And I think that, technology business is really a people business, although not a lot of people get that. All right, so that was a great presentation. Let's see what's coming next in our slides. And again, if you want to watch the rest of that, just go and look in the board of advisors, look for the icon that shows Tom and click on that. You'll see his landing page, and then you can watch the whole presentation. If you want to listen to it, you'll go to our podcast. If you're not sure where the podcasts are, just go to the site, and there's a little button here. I'll show you at the end. You click on that, and it links you to all the different podcasts that we are distributed on. Okay. All right. So let's keep moving. The next segment is with Anaf Durani, who's VP of Engineering at Grainger. And I call this segment the keys to career growth in technology. And that's from Anaf. Anaf was a really interesting guy, a really great guy, another great guy. And I really enjoyed this discussion that I had with him. So let me share this with you. Let's get to Anaf. Again, I'm going to technologyexecutivesclub.com. I'm clicking on the top navigation. It says Board of Advisors. And there's Anaf, and I'm clicking on his picture. It takes me to his landing page.
And do these interviews and talk.
And I'm going to start Anaf at right around 10 minutes. Let's see. I think that's where I said to start it. Hang on a second.
Is a big deal, right? And being comfortable with it is a big deal.
Yeah.
So not being afraid to learn something.
Yeah, that's the ending, actually. So I'm going to start his from the beginning because I want to get to around the point I just ended at, so you'll learn that lesson. But he's had a really interesting career. And in the beginning, listen to all the different things he did before he got into this role here. So I think that's very interesting and how he got there.
Hi, everybody. It's Alex Jarett again with Technology Executives Club. I'm really excited to have Anaf Durani here, who's currently the VP of Engineering at Grainger, which is probably one of the coolest companies in this area. Hi, Anaf. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Alex. How are you?
Great. You know what? I don't think I ever told you. I love Grainger. I think it is cool. I used to look at the catalog and online the website just for fun. I met someone who worked there. I never told you this, but I met someone who worked there like 20 years ago, and I was like, God, they do some really cool stuff there. This whole huge catalog. Anyways, I'm here with Anaf again, and I'm really excited, Anaf, that you joined our board of advisors, and so this is our official board of advisors interview. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the welcome.
Yeah, happy to have you here. So let's just real quickly, what we like to do in this first part is kind of go over your background, how it led you to here, because I think for people, part of this is mentoring, seeing how other people did it, what their path was and lessons learned is kind of interesting. You went to DePaul and you were trained to be in computer science. I see you got a BS in computer science, right?
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to be an engineer, kind of dabbled between different majors, computer engineering, computer science, and then, ended up with computer science.
But then you got a master's in engineering later.
Yes, I did. After I graduated, started working, I went back and did my master's in engineering. Yeah.
That's interesting. Help me out here. What's the difference?
Well, the way that the curriculum was, it was different in that what we did in computer science was a lot of foundational computation, learning how to solve problems, and that's why if you think about computer science, you need a lot of math, right? And you dabble a bit into science and whether it's physics or chemistry, but a lot of it was math, and there was some foundational programming that you needed to learn. When we got into my master's, which was more software engineering, it was how do you build a system, right? How do you think about a system and how it comes together? What are the bits in the parts of that system? But then also, how do you commercialize it, right? How do you make sure that it's ready for an enterprise or ready for production? And so that was a big difference between the two. And we did go into a bit more deep in terms of different theories and approaches to engineering, which helped me round out my perspective of the difference, let's say, between a developer and an engineer. Software engineer versus being a developer are two different things.
Could help me with that, because I find this fascinating. I've never learned this before. So you're a software engineer by training and by trade. And what is the difference between like a developer and an engineer?
Yeah, I mean, we can debate this. I'm sure there's many out there that would want to debate this, but in my opinion, my perspective, a developer is a type of individual who thinks about their code, right? The application that they're building or the piece of code that they're building, and not necessarily think about the broader set of disciplines that are required to build software. And that's where an engineer comes in. And I always talk to my team about, we are software engineers, we're not developers, right? The reason for that is because a software engineer needs to think about security, needs to think about quality, needs to think about the architecture and how the system comes together, and eventually how it will perform in production.
Yeah.
And so I've always advocated for our associates, our engineers, being actually true software engineers. Today, you can consider them full stack. To me, it's all synonymous.
That's really interesting. Well, thanks for sharing that with me. The reason I spent a minute on that, because I do believe that, I see a lot of people that are trying to kind of wing it more and everything, but I think you had that early foundation. If you just look at your career, how fast it may not have felt fast at the time to you, but if you look at it in retrospect, I mean, you were an IT consultant for a few years and then you jumped right to senior staff engineer at a great company, Motorola.
It provided me with a strong foundation, right?
That's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah, and growing up as an engineer in Motorola, it gave me the opportunity to, Motorola at the time was, if you think about it, right, it was over 100,000, employees. We were at the time number 2 when you think about like mobile devices, right? The product that we were building was for Nextel at the time. It was called the push-to-talk walkie-talkie, where you press a button and you can talk to somebody instead of making a phone call. And what we did was, my team's responsibility was to expand that out globally, where You can connect with folks between different markets, let's say Chicago and LA, but then also expand that across the globe and talk to people in Japan as another example. Press a button.
Wow. As a
Yeah,
walkie-talkie? Not renting someone's air time?
No, exactly. So it was a game changer, right? And having a ton of senior engineers to work with, to learn from, was a big deal, right? And that set my foundation of what an engineer needs to be and what it has to be in order for us to build a system and build an application. That's where I think I call my default settings come from as an engineer, is through my time at Motorola.
That's really interesting to me, because you really grew those roots there in your engineering background. And then you could see, if somebody looks at your background, you shot right up at Orbitz. You started off at global customer experience, but very quickly you became director of product engineering, quality engineering, and customer experience for the whole company. And for those of you who don't use or remember, Orbitz is still very vibrant. It's a huge worldwide, if I say it right, travel site, right?
Yep.
And a lot of people used it as their back end. So I know that Orbitz is very big still. Is that right?
Yeah, that is correct. At Orbitz, the experience, I left engineering when I joined Orbitz. I don't know if that came out in the description, but basically I wanted to do something very different and went into global customer experience, which was predominantly responsible for launching call centers, different parts of the world, but then also understanding how we can build a self-service oriented, set of capabilities for our customers instead of them having to call customer service, right? Or email, or various forms of just interaction. And so what we did there was, my responsibility was to work with folks out of different geographical locations to either launch a call center or to ram down a call center, but then also look at and work with other parts of the organization to figure out what those self-service capabilities needed to be. So at the time, you think about like, hey, I want to cancel it or modify a airline ticket or hotel, right? And so, how do you do that, right? At the time, there was very primitive set of capabilities that existed, and so the teams that I was working with were building those capabilities and enhancing those capabilities for the customer. So you can say this was a precursor to a lot of the digital experiences that we talk about today, where you have an online and an offline experience coming together. And so that was predominantly the work that I was doing, and the team that I was working with at Orbitz. And then at that point, I figured that it's probably time to get back into engineering, and so that's where the quality team, quality engineering came in, led the quality engineering team, transformed that team, and then decentralized it across our product development teams. That gave me the opportunity of moving into product development. And if you go to orbitz.com today, you do a hotel search, the results that come back, the promotions that are there, those were from the teams that I managed, right? They used to work with, they used to work with the business teams who work with the hoteliers to pull in all the promotions. But then also we had digital coupons, and we managed a lot of the inventory that came in.
I know that experience is still awesome. I mean, we still use Orbitz here.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah. My wife loves it. I mean,
well, Expedia appreciates your business, I'm sure.
Yeah. So what's interesting about your journey, again, I keep coming back to that because I am very impressed, actually, but you then went from engineering, you said you took a break, but really what you did is you learned the business, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
And you'll see this throughout my career, where I've weaved into different types of responsibilities, and I've gotten comfortable with taking on roles that I just may not have the depth of experience in, but the agility to just scale into those type of roles and get to the level of expertise and depth has been something that I'm feeling I would say I've conditioned myself to become more comfortable with. And that's been the case with every role that I've taken. It's always been something different, and that's helped me because just being open to change is a big deal, right? And being comfortable with it is a big deal.
Yeah.
So not being afraid to learn something different has helped me in my career.
And that's a great insight. And what I'm hearing from you is that you're learning on the job, so you don't let your fear slow you down. You yes, you jump in and you learn on the job and you do it. That's great.
Yeah.
That shows a lot of confidence, which is awesome.
Well, I mean, and thank you, I appreciate that. You know, what it also does is it allows me to take, things that I've learned in the past, and although they may not apply 100% back to the current responsibility that I have, but it gives me a different perspective on how to solve problems and how to think about problems. And ultimately, if you just take, if you think about, I mean, anyone's career, right? It doesn't matter if it's mine or anyone's, but the common denominator is your interaction with people, and how people react to certain things, to change, right? And what motivates people. And so that's the other thing that I've learned is that being in different roles has given me perspective to understand how people actually behave and think.
You're starting to talk about people, and the more I talk.
By the way, I hope you enjoy that segment. I mean, we go on for a little bit, and he delves into some of his lessons learned in managing people. So it's definitely worth watching. But the reason I gave you that first part, that first segment, is I wanted you to see his approach to his career. And, what was really interesting to me is first he had that foundation, but he is one of those people that continues to learn on the job, and he literally is taking opportunities that he may not be 100% qualified for and he enjoys the challenge of getting in there and has the confidence to learn on the job, and he becomes immensely qualified. You can just tell by listening to him. And I think it's a great tip for anybody in your career. If there's something that you're reaching for, go for it. Don't worry about it if you don't check all the boxes, because you'll learn on the job. That's how a lot of people do it. You learn on the job. And so I wanted to give you that sort of inspiration from Anaf, because I think that inspired me, frankly, when I listened to him live and every time I listen to it as well. All right, let's get to the next segment here. Go back to that chart. And we'll go to the slides here. That was Anaf Durani again. And if you want to hear his whole interview, be sure and go to the videos. I'm not sure if that's posted on our podcast yet, but it will be. So just go to the podcast, Technology Executives Review, and we'll be posting all of these that I'm showing. Okay. All right, let's go to the next one. Whoops. The next one is Tom Irvine, and he's the CIO of Monosol. They make those Tide Pods, the gelatin. I think they're gelatin, some kind of chemical that creates the Tide Pods you throw in your washing machine, those kinds of things. And this segment I call Where the Return on AI Will Be According to Gartner. And it's kind of interesting what Gartner said at the symposium. And that was just a few short months ago, so it's still relevant today. So let's get to that, although that is moving very quickly. Again, you go to the Board of Advisors page on technology. Oh, this one is not his Board of Advisors interview. This is under our TE Review videos. So today you're watching a highlights show. I also just put those episodes out just as episodes. So for example, you can watch the whole interview with Tom, the whole presentation. I'll show you that now. But if you go to Technology Executives Review videos on our site, technologyexecutivesclub.com, and you scroll down, you'll see a couple of them up here already, a bunch of them actually. And you'll see the CIO, it says topic, CIO report on the Gartner Symposium 2024 forecast with Tom Irvine. And so let me get to that. And I think that first timestamp was at 4:42. So let me jump back there.
Second, to take a look at there and what we need to be working on. So I'm going to go through the slides. I saw such an uptick. The first thought was, boy, are they going overboard? And
all right, so here we go.
The first thought was, boy, are they going overboard? And then as you know, with all of the sessions and the way that they connected to it, and as I've had some time to think about it afterwards, it doesn't feel like that. I mean, these are the kinds of things that you expect from someone like Gartner to be on the to be able to interpret what's happening on there and what we need to be working on. So I'm going to go through the slides here. Most of them will be based on Gen AI and what they believe on here. But we started with a survey. Every year they do a CEO survey. They measure things like what's on the CEO's mind on here. You can see this one for the word talent on here. Of course, getting the right talent is going up in concern. Digital, always important, but getting more so. But AI, and this is the big jump here that happened in 2023 and early 2024 here, was how much CEOs are talking about it. And so for those of us who talk with the CEOs, I'm sure you're having the same experience that I am, where they want to know, what does it mean? Is it a threat? How do we leverage it? What should be our posture, and how do we go about that? And then a little more information here about a little more details here about, it's saying that AI is the top disruptive technology and the fear of we're missing out, and their top 10 predictions for 2024 and beyond on here. A number of these are related to Gen AI, but a number of them are not on here. So I'll give you a second to take a look at what they mean on here and what they're looking at on here. But energy, as you can see here, energy is important on here, believing that there will be such taxing on our energy grid, and especially with the advent of Gen AI, the usage of energy will become more important. That to me seems by 2026, they're saying 50% will have some kind of rationing. Unions, they're talking about unions for knowledge workers on here. By 2028 here, 1,000% increase in unionization. For many of us, we deal with unions at my company, but it's for our manufacturing employees, not for our knowledge workers. It's a prediction that they're starting to see as taking a big uptake on here. The malinformation, $30 billion diverted from budgets to fight malinformation. The more we rely on whether it's AI, Gen AI, or other tools on here, the more problems that it can generate on here, and the cost of what that means on there. The first one on here, charisma filters, they're talking about the ways that technology can be personalized in a way that makes people connect better. So an example of this might be a built-in camera that can look right, find where your eye is and make it look right, so you're looking right in the camera. So if I'm looking in the presentation, it would be able to do it. That's one of the ways. Other ways are interpreting how I'm writing into, say, a chat GPT and translating it based on what they learn about me as a person on there. So a number of great things on here to consider as they look further down the line. Some of the trends here that I took from here: Gen AI makes people and more powerful and personally, professionally on here, and they talk about how machines are becoming more human. The way that we connect with machines, people are personalizing that connection. I told a story before. They told a story here about the vacuum, the robot vacuum, and that how they allow you to name it, and that much more common, and that people, when working on Gen AI and other type of technologies, need to find ways to better humanize those interactions. They believe that it'll level the playing field throughout the world, so it's not just a U.S. or a European advantage now, that because of many of the dynamics, that countries throughout the world have a chance to be able to catch up quickly. And that it can also lead to a more diverse workforce. So some of the skills that are going to be required in Gen AI, may have people that we today think of as a disability, may give them an advantage in working through some of those. So some interesting turns and excitement there. They'll get over their worst traits, so it can mitigate some of the problems and create others. So energy cost, investments can be on one side. The way we rethink our operations or work, employment strategy could be an advantage on the other side. And they see legacy app modernization as a sweet spot for Gen AI. So many of us have technical debt, have legacy apps that we have to maintain, and have finding it harder and harder to find the right people. Gartner is saying that Gen AI can play a huge role in modernizing those applications. And then threats bring new responsibilities and communities here. Malinformation, the CISO role will increase. So they talk about that the CISO will eventually, their prediction that will also not just be responsible for security threats, but also for data threats. So the malinformation, the bad information, the bad way that the company can be presented might become part of a CISO role as opposed to just a data analytics or data manager role. And then unions, we already talked about that role.
So I want to just jump in here. I got another little segment from Tom's presentation. It was a 45-minute presentation, but it was great. So be sure to listen to it or watch the whole thing. But what's really interesting is that robot. He told the whole story in another segment of the presentation. The vacuum cleaner robot, you all know the round robots, the vacuum cleaners that move around in your house, and they get used to the house and drive the dog and the cat crazy. But in the meantime, they clean your house. And they told the story at the conference about somebody who named it Meryl Sweep, after the actress Meryl Streep. And they created this in their heads. The family created this persona for Meryl Streep. They would joke about it. They would talk about it. And, it's just a vacuum cleaner, and it broke. And what's interesting about it is they sent it to the factory, and the factory said, "Oh, we don't think we can fix it. We'll give you a new one." And the family said, "No, we want Meryl. We want Meryl Sweep," which, obviously is interesting. And it just shows you about the big point I wanted to get across is, which he got across a couple points in that first segment, but the thing I wanted to really zero in on here is that AI is going to allow the interface and the relationship with this technology to completely change and transform. Just put that in the back of your head. Think about that. Let me get to another segment here. By the way, if you're in charge of customer service, AI, your product, clearly that's something you should be thinking about, right? Because the people that figure that one out, as another speaker for us says, it's not that we should have to learn how to use the software, it's that the software should learn how to communicate with us. And whoever figures that out is going to go up. So anyways, I think I have one more segment here. Let me just jump to this timestamp. Yeah, there it is. Right about here. This is just another thing I wanted to show you.
Other things that predictions that they had made on here: by 2026, more than 80% of independent software vendors will have embedded Gen AI capabilities in their enterprise. Today, it's 1%. So we hear a lot from our vendors, right, telling us about how they've got AI. I was just on a call with Salesforce yesterday where they mentioned that they are that they've been working on AI since 2014, and yet they're still trying to working on it and trying to get to get it implemented in the everyday work in Salesforce. So this is seen as a real spot where they will be moving fast. Other ones on here that Gen AI will be a workforce partner for 90% of the companies. 50% of the enterprises by 2028 will build their own LLMs and from scratch, and will basis. And then
let me jump back to that. Sorry, okay, so I'll just read these to you. So this is kind of key. I wanted to share this. It kind of goes along with that last comment that I made that he talked about. Look how they describe AI as a workforce partner. 90% of the companies globally. This isn't like a machine, that it's a partner. So they're starting to give a different identity to technology. And that's very interesting to me. And by 2030, 80% of humans will engage with smart robots on a daily basis. The one in the middle is obviously interesting as well. If you've got proprietary data, you got to build your own LLM. So if you're not playing with that now, at least start playing. And AI is already in your enterprise, obviously. And the first step would be policies and procedures on how to use this stuff, what they're allowed to put in and not, which is going to be difficult to manage. But anyways, I just think this whole pattern of the way that we're interacting with technology is going to significantly change. And that's what's actually that's part of what's actually happening now. Anyways, that great presentation. They talk about how to leverage AI. So if you're the one leading that, or just interested in how that's working, because what's happening is that all the companies that are selling any kind of software are integrating AI into their products. But you all, let's say you're a distributor, you'll be integrating AI into your suite and your software that you provide to your customers, your customer experience, the whole thing. So a lot of change. We're going to see a dramatic change in the near future. Anyways, which you all know if you're watching this, but it's just very interesting where that's coming from. Okay, so that was that. Let me show you where to watch all this again and tell you, and then I'm going to get to a different part of the presentation today. If I can find the slide. Here it is. Oh, seem to have. Whoops. Sorry. I'm going to get out of here. Let's see. Oh, here it is. Now I figured out what it is. So you go to the site, technologyexecutivesclub.com. I showed videos from 2 locations. The first location was the Board of Advisors tab, and that's where you see the initial interviews. You click on them. Like here's one from a fellow named Tony, who just joined, who's the Office of the CTO at Checkpoint. We're excited to see him. And then you click on one and then listen to the interview or watch the interview. The other thing you can do is it says TE Review. That's this show that you're listening to or watching now. This is a highlights edition, but not all of them are. Some of them are just the presentations. I could have one presentation. That's all we have. And that's the show. And you can also listen to the podcast. And if you go to the site, you'll say, hey, I want to hear the podcast. We play it on the side, obviously, but here's buttons to get to Apple and Spotify. As an example, there's the Apple, and you can see it's Technology Executives Review, and you can just search that on your podcast. And all the stuff I'm showing, you can just stream while you're driving or whatever. Be careful. It's awesome. All right, let me get to the next segment here, and it's actually me. I'm going to be presenting a bonus section called Technology Executive Branding Tips. I like to say, old dog, new tricks. You're looking at a fellow that I was in the conference business for 20 plus years. I was doing events and conferences and built up a pretty big audience on LinkedIn. Not really an audience, just a network on LinkedIn, just because, I would have people at my conferences, and we were affectionately called the Event of the Midwest by a lot of people because they're obviously a great company. We had very high quality events all over the Midwest. And of course that shifted during the pandemic and I went online, and I really became very interested in what was going on online because I started posting our webinars and things like that on there and just kind of got hooked. And I really, really enjoy doing what I'm doing right now as I talk to you right now and have interviewed people. Along the way, I became what's known as a micro B2B influencer. I learned a lot about this topic, which is executive branding tips. And now I'm just want to give you a few tips and help you. So it's called Enhancing and Expanding Your Executive Brand. And the first, here's what I'm going to talk about in this short little segment is the age of influence and authority, why your network matters. I'm not talking about your computer network. I'm talking about your personal network. And in-person and just talking to people in person is not enough anymore. Got to do both. And the era of what I call the technology spokesperson, and that's for people who have a business. And the key benefits to focusing on your executive brand and your network, and that would be for internal and providers and that kind of thing. So this is a presentation that's engineered for both internal CIOs, CTOs, CDOs, as well as people that are on the consulting side, the provider side, or maybe you own a technology company. So it's for both yet, okay? Because there's a common ground there where this content I'm going to show you now applies to both of you. And the first part is we have entered what I call the age of influence and authority. And the first part I want to talk about, I didn't even say in the title, was something called celebrity endorsements. And the point I want to make is that this isn't really new. It just became more available to all of us. And, celebrity endorsements and influencer endorsements have actually been around a long time. I mean, right now you look on a commercial and you see Jennifer Gartner, who I think's a great actress. I like her and I like her dad, all that. So, but what if no offense to her if she hears this, what does she really know about personal finance and things like that? I mean, she's selling credit cards. Kevin Hart is selling credit cards. And some of the other people that are well-known celebrities are selling credit cards. What do they know about that? And, you can look at your local TV station and your football player or hockey player is selling cars, things like that. So, it's been going on. Just watch TV, at night, just kind of be aware of that. So this has been going on a long time. The other thing that's been around is this concept of authority, which I'll talk about in a minute. But in terms of the age of influence, the first person to actually talk about this name or coin this phrase is a professor called Robert Cialdini. He's still alive. He keeps writing. He's awesome. You should follow him. And by the way, when I did the research for this presentation, I already knew all this stuff. I just want to give you some good quotes. He's one of the first people to talk about influencers and influence marketing. He's credited with the term influencer in his 2000 book, Influence, Science and Practice. And the book's main idea is that people are relatively easy to influence. And they talk about how Santa Claus helps Coca-Cola in advertising, the one with the bears and everything. That's influence. But, in terms of all of us, what's really happened is influencer marketing sort of became a thing, and creating influence online became a thing that was open to all of us. And for many of you, you probably still think of it as YouTube or TikTok or all the different other Facebook, all the other Instagram, social medias. But what's really changed there was already a lot of people on LinkedIn. What's changed is when the pandemic hit, there's still a few stragglers, but the rest of the world, the working world, pretty much went on LinkedIn. And so now it's a real thing to become an influencer or micro B2B influencer is what I am on LinkedIn. And that's, if you just look it up, you got to have 8,000 or 9,000 followers, and then you're just active in it and posting a lot, which I can tell you how to do it. But anyways, that's kind of important. It's kind of important grounding concept of why this is important to you, because people are going to buy. You've always heard they buy from who they know and like and trust, and they also hire who they know, like, and trust. So if you have two people side by side, you're looking for a job, and they have the exact same resume, and one person is well known and has a large network, and the other person doesn't, you can guess who probably get the job. And the same thing goes for if you're out there selling something, whether it's a service or software or yourself, So that's influence marketing. The other thing is a concept called authority and authority marketing. And I'm going to explain authority with two stories that I like to talk about. And the first story is what would you do at a traffic light? And so let's say you're at a traffic light, and or I'll say stop sign. It's even better. Something that you could just stop and go if you want to. So we'll use that as the example. So you're at a stop sign. So a young man walks in front of you, kind of disheveled, hair all over the place, long hair all over the place, backpack, carrying some stuff. You know, he's looking around, seems kind of out of it, looks at you and goes like that, you know, stop. And then he comes over to your window to talk to you at the window. What do? Right? That's the character that's coming up to you at the window. Now, if I talk to you personally and I ask, most people, 9 out of 10 people say they lock their doors, shut their windows, and they get out of there as soon as they can. One person I talked to, I won't say his name, but very gracious guy. He actually said, well, for people like that need help, I always keep some ones in my car. He actually said it, and some 10s, and I give it to him. I'm like, dude, you're the nicest guy. But 9 out of 10 people will look at that and they'll just blow through it. The second person that, let's say it's the same human, but now he's not dressed like that. Got a nice professional cut, and he's wearing a uniform that happens to be a police officer's uniform. And he's walking across the street. You can see he's looking, and then he looks at you, says, and goes like this, and stop, right? Stop. And then he comes over to tap on your window. He's an officer. So what do? Right? So obviously you stop. You roll down the window, you keep your hands on the wheel, 2 hands on the wheel. And how can I help you, officer? That's what you do. Why? Because he's known as an authority. Let me give you another example. And I'll get to the conclusion here in a second, but it's very interesting. And how would you answer 2 different voicemails? So now you've got a voicemail from someone you don't know. And it's some type of sales rep. We get these every day now. And hi, so-and-so, it's so-and-so from such and such. And so the question is, you've never heard of the company, you've never heard of the person. How long does it take you to just delete it? Or do you even listen to that voicemail? And do you take any action at all? Probably not long. Most executives that I talk to don't even listen to them. They just delete. Unfortunately, sorry, salespeople. They got to kind of know you first, or get something in really quick. I sent you an email, please check it out, or something like that. But for the most part, they don't listen. Now, the next message is from your doctor's office, and it's the nurse, and he or she is saying, Dr. So-and-so just read your results, and he wants you to come into the office this afternoon at 5:30 and go over those results with you. Now, what do? Well, first of all, you certainly listen to the whole message, but what most people tell me is they change their schedule, assuming they're in town, and they get to the doctor's office. Now, why is that? Because it's about their health, and he or she is an authority. So we've been all trained since childhood to listen to authorities. So if you can combine the 2 of these, you become what's known as an influencer authority. And if you're running a company, you want to use that person or persons as kind of a spokesperson or spokespeople for your company. But if it's just you looking for your next gig, or you don't even looking right now, you want to use your opportunity to grow yourself as an influencer and authority. And if you look up the concept of authority marketing is a strategy that uses knowledge and experience to establish a position of authority in industry or niche. The goal is to establish credibility and trust, which can lead to more clients, customers, or followers, and ultimately increase success and recognition. So that important part is really important. This last part is important to everybody. Doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're an internal executive, or if you're an external provider, consultant, business owner, it's very important to understand that. So I don't have time to go into how to do all this, but I will show you a couple things in terms. Today, I'm just talking about why this matters. Because a lot of people I talk to, I haven't had a chance to do this. I really got to get to it. Well, I'm just going to encourage you to get to it because it matters. Your network matters, and in person is not enough. If you're just doing online, that's not enough either. You should be doing both. But the foundation to start with nowadays is your in-person profile, and what you're doing online. And if it's in B2B, you do it on LinkedIn. It's very straightforward. So ideally, you do both. Now, why this matters for internal executives? And I talked to a lot of you all. I've been doing this for a long time, and I've had conferences all over the country, really, but mostly in the Midwest. And I talked to a lot of you. I have a peer group. You're going to want this to get your next job. That's number one. So it's the kind of thing like the old-fashioned values where I come and work for a company and I work hard and things will take care of itself. Well, it doesn't work that way anymore, unfortunately, because the amount of time that you'll probably be in one of these higher jobs is probably I wouldn't say 5 years or less. If you just look it up, maybe it's 6 years or less. That's the average tenure of a C-level technology company. There's always exceptions. People are there 10, 20 years. And in fact, Tom was there his whole career. Those are the exceptions. And people are also more mobile. Also, they move around a lot. The other thing is that you're worth more if you have a network. Now, we have somebody that's in our board of advisors. I won't say who he is, but he has a very large network. And because of that network, he was approached by a Fortune 100 company who said, look, so-and-so, we see that not only are you awesome at being the CIO of this major company, we've done our homework before we spoke to you, but we also see that you have a large network and talent. Remember the Gartner presentation we just saw? Talent is really key. And we know that people that can attract talent and have a large network can get more done for us quicker. So we're going to offer you a multi-million-dollar contract. And that is literally what his network propelled him into. Now, there's more to the story, which I can't share. Can't share who it is or the whole story, but he decided not to go with it. And everybody else on us was like, well, I would have done that. But he's an awesome guy. And he built this incredible network that he leverages to help people. And that is one of the things that made his value more to some companies, which is very important. Now, obviously, if you're a consultant or provider in sales and marketing, if you own your own company, for goodness sakes, you've got to be listening to this or doing this. You'll attract more customers and you'll be able to sell more. Again, doesn't matter if you're internal or external. In fact, I got a slide for you who are external. If you're a consultant provider, especially business owners and senior executives, you want to start looking or thinking about spokespeople. You don't have to be a credit card company to hire an actress or actor to have a spokesperson. I have a really good friend of mine. If you're in Chicago, he's in law. His name is Brad. I'll just say his name is Brad. He's a great guy. Play tennis with him. And in Illinois, he's known as the Hammer in law. And that's just commercials. And if you're in Illinois, you know who I'm talking about. He's a great guy. He does a lot of advertising. So he's become the spokesperson for his company. And I'll tell you, it works. And you have to ask yourself, how does that work? Why does that work? It's because of those concepts that I just shared with you. It's how we're all wired. And if you can tap into this, it will actually make a difference to your career and to your company. So if you're on an equal basis and you have two proposals, let's say you're reselling Microsoft. I'll just use a really simple example. And you look almost exactly the same, but one leader of one company is out there all the time, helping people, sharing, got a great brand. The other person's silent. They don't even have a background on their slide. They're out on the golf course. You really don't know what they're up to. Maybe those three people they're talking about like that person and they're happy, but they're not really sharing or doing anything else online. Who do you think is going to get the business? The company with the spokesperson. That's just how things work today. So you'll win against people and companies that do not have a strong executive brand. So we're in the era of executive spokespersons, especially in technology. And this is for internal and external executives. I shared the story about how a network can make a difference for your career. And I can't tell you how many CIOs I interview just to be involved in our club that tell me, oh, I can't talk now because I can't do this now because I'm in between roles. And they didn't build up their network while they were in their role. So that's the time to do it, is when you don't need it. And I want you to think about, if you're running a company, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Sam Altman, Elon Musk, why do we see these people all the time, every day now? Now, Elon Musk, let's take him. I don't really know him, obviously. I know of him, just like you all do. He's a multi-billionaire, and he can do whatever he wants with his time. Just like a lot of these folks, he works hard, but he's also online all the time. He's getting interviewed all the time. He's allowing himself to be seen all the time. Steve Jobs was one of the first guys that started this as far as companies, and we still see him today. God bless his soul. So he's posthumous. I can't say the phrase. He's not with us, but he's still online with us all the time. Bill Gates is still putting content out. Sam Altman, we see him all the time. Why is he allowing himself to be interviewed? Because they all know this. In fact, you can look it up. If you go to raise money in Silicon Valley now, this is one of the boxes that they check. Is the CEO, CXO capable, or are they acting as a spokesperson? And if you look up people on LinkedIn that go like 0 to 1 million and they're young. How did that happen? And why all of a sudden there's this one lady that I follow, young lady that I follow, name's Allie. She's got over 1 million fans on LinkedIn, which, by the way, that's not a micro B2B. That's a legit worldwide influencer. She can go all the way on LinkedIn. She's now an investor, venture capitalist, but she started out as an influencer, micro B2B influencer. She got a job at IBM. She also knows her stuff, by the way. Smart. So that's how it works. You know, the old way still work, but this way is an accelerator for everybody. If you look up on Google search, which, by the way, as I recorded this, they just launched this and put it on their search. It's amazing in the last couple of weeks. So CEO, I'm going to call it CXO-led marketing, but CEO-led marketing is when a CEO uses their personal brand influence and networks to drive revenue growth. CEOs who prioritize marketing in their growth strategy are twice as likely, look at that stat, twice as likely to have annual growth of more than 5%. Now that's a broad number. And so what they're saying is if you do this, you're going to beat the odds. Pretty interesting. So just to wrap up, what are the benefits of enhancing and expanding your executive brand? One, you can grow your network. That's obvious how that can help you. Two, you could do a better job in your current job because you'll have more context to help and get from. So if you're internal, you say, why does this apply to me? Well, because it's all about talent. We heard that in some of the other interviews. It's all about providers and partners. And this is a great way to do that, as well as your peers. They'll help you get that next job. Doesn't matter what side of the coin you're on. And if you do market and sell and you own your own business, you've got to be thinking about this. You'll sell more. If you do this right, they'll literally come to you. To you. Imagine that, where they're coming to you. The first step, now that's the end of this little introductory segment, but I'll just share with you. The first step is to craft your executive brand on LinkedIn. Why LinkedIn? Because that's where B2B is. A lot of people say, oh, I'm going to do all this on Facebook and then I'll do a little on LinkedIn. No, if you're in B2B, if you're in business, and this is about your career, you got to do it on LinkedIn. That's where the action is. There's a lot to this, a lot more than you think, but there are some stages that are pretty basic. And I created a simple 3-step process to sort of kickstart our clients. I do this on every coaching session. Someone joins our board of advisors. I go through this whole process with them. And it's a 3-step process to kickstart our clients to create an executive brand on the profile that works. Since you're watching this, if you qualify and you're interested, if you watch this, just tell me. I'll spend a few minutes with you. And if you'd like a complimentary review of your profile from this perspective, along with a short session on these 3 steps, just let me know. Go to our site, technologyexecutivesclub.com. I'll set up a discovery call. It's how I help some people. And obviously, we'll get to know each other. But it is something that I'll be happy to do for folks that are part of our community. So anyways, that's that. I hope that was helpful. I'll be sharing more tips on this whole topic and area to help our community grow their brand and grow their network. And getting back to all the videos we saw today, and I'll actually have a page on the site that's just about executive brand building. We haven't put that page up yet. You will see it soon. But if you want to see all the videos we talk about today, please join us at technologyexecutivesclub.com. And if you want to listen to it, you can go to Technology Executives Review, go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and our website. And again, visit us at technologyexecutivesclub.com. And don't forget to join our complimentary Insiders Club. And if you want to be involved and be a regular on our media network, please reach out to us and ask us about our Board of Advisors program. The Board of Advisors is the Board of Advisors to our technology community, not just to me, but to you all, to the entire community. You'll enhance your executive brand, you'll build your network and grow your business, all while helping others. It's awesome. So please book a discovery call on our site if you have an interest, or reach out to me. There's the number 847-837-3900 or Jarett@technologyexecutivesclub.com. Thank you for attending. I appreciate all of you. I always like to close by saying it's an honor. It's our honor to serve you and your team, and I mean that. Alex Jarett signing off, technologyexecutivesclub.com and Technology Executives Review. If you like this, please comment, share it with a friend, either on LinkedIn or on your podcast or wherever you hear this message. Thanks, everybody, and have a wonderful day. Appreciate you being here.